All right, guys, we're here with the We Make Supplements podcast. Today we have a very special guest. But first, we have my co-host, Sean Marszalek.
That's close enough.
How am I supposed to say it?
Marszalek.
Is that really how I'm supposed to say it? I've been saying Marszalek my whole life.
I mean, people say it like 3 or 4 different ways, so I don't ever correct anybody.
What's the origin?
Czech.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, but this name is a lot easier.
Yeah.
We have Dan Wiltrout, the VP of Manufacturing right here at SDC Nutrition.
As in trout.
As in trout.
Like a fish.
That's right. A lot of high school nicknames I got from that.
What were the good ones?
I don't know if I can say them on this podcast.
I think you can, man.
Yeah,
I think
go
you
for
can.
If Joe Rogan can do it, so can we.
HR's gone, you know. Yeah, let's skip it. I can see the look in his face. It's like
the wheels are spinning. Next time.
So, Dan, tell us a little about yourself.
So, I run the contract manufacturing department here. So that includes everything from, the very beginning of the process to the very end until we ship it. So anything that's happening in between there and at the beginning and the end is I'm involved with that process. So that includes quoting, product development, communication with the customer, packaging, coordinating with art department, marketing department, whatever the customer needs.
He sounds so excited as he describes it, doesn't he?
It's exciting. I mean, every single day you have 15 people yelling at you that they want their product?
Yeah, on a good day. Yeah.
So I've actually known Dan for a little over 8 years at this point. And I remember when we first met Dan, he came by the Arnold.
Yeah.
Right? And we just kind of met each other at the bar or whatever it was at the
right.
Hyatt. And we're asking Dan, what are the MOQs? Right? Because our current manufacturer at that time was asking for something ridiculous and we couldn't get anything done. And Dan pretty much told me what MOQs were, and I didn't understand any of it. But could you give us some background? Because not everyone knows what an MOQ is, why an MOQ exists.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons, why a manufacturer would establish a certain MOQ. I know here that, we do it our run sizes are based off of equipment efficiency, basically, is
I think we're skipping a couple steps. What does MOQ stand for, Sean?
Oh, I'm sorry, minimum order quantity.
There we go.
Yeah. 100,000 bottles.
100,000 bottles. If only, right?
If only.
So minimum order quantity really revolves around equipment and capacity and efficiencies and things like that. So encapsulation, our MOQs are 90,000 capsules, and we established that based off of a couple different things. Blender capacity, we have 2 blenders in encapsulation, so that typically fills up at least one of the blenders. What the goal ultimately is to fill up a blender, so we're getting the most out of a blender, and then also not to run something so small that once it hits a machine, you hit the start button and stop right away. That's extremely inefficient because it takes just about as much time to do that as it does to run, a couple 100,000 capsules. So there's not that much of a difference between, if someone wanted to run a 20,000 capsules versus 100,000. There's a certain point in there where the machine's running fast enough that saving or finishing the run in an hour versus an hour and a half, we still have to do all the setup, cleaning, tear down, all those things combined take way more time than the run. So we want to get what we can out of the machine prior to moving on to the next product, if that makes sense.
Okay, so trying to translate this to regular people. Sean, let me know if you think this translation works.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
So whether you're running 500 bottles or whether you're running 5,000 bottles or maybe even 10,000, the cost of cleaning the machine is the exact same.
Yes, the cost is always the same.
In between one formula to the next formula, you have to go through the process of cleaning every single aspect of that machine, every single piece, every single part of it, right? And then you have to divide the cost of running that whole project, the labor, the cleaning, everything, against 500 bottles or 10,000 bottles.
Yes.
Okay. Does that make sense, Sean?
Yeah, perfect sense.
Okay. So why do manufacturers establish an MOQ? Is there a certain point where it just doesn't make sense to run? Is that what it is? Or if someone wants to pay $100 a bottle,
I would say
charge them?
I would say picture your kitchen at home, okay? So you have a small pot if you want to make, so you have a pot this big or a big stock pot. You can make 3 hard-boiled eggs in this little pot, and you can make it in the big stock pot too, right? But it takes just as much time to make them in either one, but you rather clean the little one when you're done versus the big one. Is that a Is that a somewhat
well, I mean, if
decent
you're
analogy?
going to do an egg
you know,
analogy, I think I got a better one, right?
Okay,
So
all right.
if you have this small pot at your house, right, and you have a large pot at your house, you could cook 3 eggs hard-boiled in the small pot, right? And you can cook maybe 15 hard-boiled eggs in the big pot, all in the same time. So you'd much rather set up the pot, add the water, cook the eggs, and have 15 at the end of it than 3.
I think that's what I was trying to say. He just did
I think
much
Sean just wants 15 eggs.
better job of it. Yeah. No, I want 15 eggs.
You got me started down the road. I mean, I knew where you were going with it, and I knew where you didn't finish it, so I just took it. That's all.
All right, so and we're talking about putting eggs and and boiling water and so on and so forth, right? But let's talk about
we've lost everybody at this point.
Let's go back to actual supplements, right? So, I mean, I walked into the back into where all of our ingredients are stored, and like, oh my God, there are so many different ingredients. And when I was running my own brand, I think one question I had was like, why is the price constantly fluctuating? Where are you guys getting these ingredients from? How do you guys go about quoting? I think people at home have no idea how a manufacturer quotes products. Can either of you guys elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, I can get started. I'm sure Dan could jump in as well. But, I mean, we're sourcing raw materials from all over the world to begin with. And a lot of the materials do fluctuate in price from the actual grower, say it's a plant-based extract, or if it's a commodity like whey protein. I mean, these prices are fluctuating all the time on a raw material. So when we pay for a raw material in January, we might pay a different price for that same raw material in May. Right. So as those things fluctuate, now you're trying to quote out a product taking those things into consideration. Right. So you're not every time a customer orders changing the price on them. So you try to get a feel for those ingredients that are in the product and then kind of get a price point that you know is not going to fluctuate too much. But sometimes you can't avoid it and a raw material goes way up. For whatever reason. I know at times there were, a lot of conflicts in North Africa where cocoa was coming from, right? So prices of cocoa went up. So all of a sudden, when you're buying the raw material at a much higher price, then you've got to adjust the pricing on the customer at times. And usually you can get on the phone with them and explain, and it's usually something that is public, kind of like the Chinese tariffs, right? Everyone's aware that these tariffs were imposed, and if you're watching any news whatsoever, you see this thing happening, and obviously it affects someone, and in certain cases it affects us and the consumers and even the brand owners, obviously.
Yeah, and there's kind of 2 levels of that. One is the herbal stuff that Sean was referencing. A lot of that stuff doesn't fluctuate too much, or, at any given time, this one material might fluctuate by a couple dollars, another one, goes the other way a couple dollars. So things usually balance out for most products, but sometimes there are big impacts. Like there was flooding in Madagascar, vanilla went through the roof, so vanilla flavoring went through the roof. So we had a big disparity in costs of products that were flavored with vanilla. Those kind of things happen. And then when you're talking about commodities like milk, things that are traded, like that on that scale, that's just a worldwide price where everyone's paying basically the same. So if milk goes up, whey goes up. So protein pricing can increase, and that's usually something we at least get some kind of a notice of. But
so when you give a customer a price, how long is that price good for?
If we're concerned about it not being good, we'll always disclose to them that this is an estimate. At the given time of the order, it could change, but typically a quote's going to hold for. We don't always put a month or week timeline on it, but we can typically hold a quote for 90 days without there being a big risk of it changing.
But it's probably more often than not that a price doesn't really fluctuate too much over the course of a year.
Typically, no.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so there are all sorts of ingredients back there, right? I mean, I think there's got to be thousands of ingredients. Every single part of the process, the bottles, the caps, the little fillers that go in there, the actual ingredients, the scoop, if it's like a protein product or something like that. How do you go about coding it? Is there like an app? Is there a file? Is there a program? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think every manufacturer is probably different, but I mean, here we have a custom quoting tool where it pulls all the ingredients from our database and the current costing on them. We're able to build those into a system to kind of get us what our COGS are or our price is for the product to actually make it, which then we can translate into a customer quote.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty straightforward.
So we're not writing it on a napkin, is my point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember calling Dan back in the day, being like, "Hey, Dan, why don't I have this quoted yet?"
I have done quotes off of napkins, but our new way is much better.
Fair enough. So we had a buddy, my creative director, on one of the earlier podcasts, and there was a story about you, Dan, that this man brought up, and it had to do with a certain ingredient that apparently you were testing out in your earlier youth.
Yeah.
It was called niacin.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have to hear the story.
Common ingredient. You know, I when I was younger, in my quest for paper thin skin and skin tearing vascularity and whatever I could do to look better in the gym was my main focus in life.
Because that journey's over now.
Well, it's knocked down a few notches. You know, I got kids and a family and everything, but you know, I'm still there a little bit, but maybe not this extreme. But anyway, someone had told me about niacin, which is vitamin B3. Everyone is familiar with that. There's more than two, but there's two main types of vitamin B3. One's niacin, one is niacinamide. Niacinamide is the more commonly used ingredient because it does not cause flushing, but niacin does. So
what's flushing, Dan?
So
explain to people that don't know.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't really know all the science behind it, but you know, it's kind of from what I understand, it just kind of opens up, it dilates blood vessels and kind of flushes blood.
Give you that tingly feeling?
Blood to the skin, yes. So kind of like a beta-alanine. More people listening to this are probably more familiar with that. This is very similar to that. Feels a little bit different, but basically what can happen is the more you take, and certain people are more sensitive to it than others, you will get this flushing sensation where blood is drawn to your skin, and then the reason I was interested in that is because I thought maybe I'll take this before arm day and I will rip my t-shirt sleeves right off my body mid-rep. That was what I was thinking.
So what happened?
So if you know anything about it, you can get this sensation anywhere. I mean, some people are super sensitive, can maybe get this sensation around 30 milligrams. Most people will get it about 100 to 150. Well, I took a gram.
Wait, hold on. Let's just make sure the math here. So you said 30 to 100 milligrams.
Yes.
But you took a full gram.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was in the industry at the time. I didn't take this out of the back and scoop it and weigh it. I actually bought this product online. I don't know why. I think I desperately wanted to try this on Friday and overnight it on Thursday or something. That's probably what I was thinking at the time. Whatever it takes. And I took a gram, and this was a tablet. So it wasn't happening quick enough. I wasn't feeling anything. So before I left, I took the tablet. I got ready to leave to go work out. Nothing was happening, so I took another one.
No. Stop. 2,000 milligrams at this point.
That's right.
In your system. Oh, my God.
I took two, about 10 minutes apart. So as I was taking the second one, the first one, I was starting to get this sensation, and man, I looked great for like 30 seconds, okay? I was bright red and just the roadmap veins
pump
everywhere.
Was real, son.
It was insane. Yeah, I felt like I was gonna, just tear through my skin, and that lasted about 30 seconds, and then I got just terribly sick. I mean, every symptom you can imagine, I had it all at once. I was cold sweats, lightheaded. I was hot but cold. I was, sweating, but I was freezing, and I mean, I took a hot shower, then a cold shower, then a hot shower, then a cold shower, then I sat in a hot bath, and then I jumped out and was overheating, and then I got terribly cold. And what ended up happening was after all these symptoms and some other things that happened that I would rather not talk about on the podcast, other symptoms. I mean, I'm talking everything in the book. I was this close to going to the ER. I basically curled up on my couch with a space heater blowing on me at full speed with a blanket that you plugged into the wall, and it was like an electric heating blanket with in a full sweatsuit, hoodie up, with that on, full blast, space heater, full blast, and was shivering. Fell asleep at about 8 p.m. and woke up the next day at about 10 a.m. Felt great.
Did you Google anything to see what was going to possibly happen to you?
Yeah, I was. I think I was very close to the dose that could potentially cause liver failure. So I thought maybe that was happening, but then before I could think about it more, I passed out and woke up and was fine.
Is there like a place on the web that you could go to find out like how much you should not be taking of these types of ingredients?
Yeah, Google. Just any
WebMD, like
you don't need to look that hard.
Okay.
I did not look at all, or I would have known. But you don't need to look that hard. I looked after the fact.
Have you? When was this? How long ago?
This was 2000 and I think this was 2010, 2009, okay. 2010.
Have you learned your lesson?
Yeah, I think I tried it again and dialed back the dose and was mildly uncomfortable, but results were okay.
Sean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, have you ever had an experience like that?
No.
Yeah.
I usually look at, serving size, how many servings per day, and then any warnings on a bottle before I take it.
So you actually read the label.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Did this product have like a warning?
What we really need to ask ourselves is what I don't know, how was I able to get 1 gram niacin tablets?
Well, yeah, that's a great question.
Was it for
right?
humans? Did you buy something for horses?
It was. No, it was definitely not like a research
some,
chemical.
Crazy Chinese website that you had to buy it from?
No, I remember.
What if somebody called us right now and said, "Hey, we make supplements. I'd like you to make me a 1 gram niacin capsule." What would you say to them? Like, are we allowed to do it? Would you have to look into it? Would you just not recommend it, but it's legal? Like,
no, we'd quote them out. No, we would definitely. I would definitely notify the customer that had concerns about a potential flushing. The products are out there, so they're available at a gram. I mean, I would definitely warn the customer, but I'm sure we would have to get.
So do you
I'm
do
sure
that
we would have to get QA involved to make sure that was something that we are.
So do you do that a lot?
Risk.
Like whenever a customer calls and says, "Hey, I have this great formula idea," and starts talking to you about it, and can you help navigate that?
Yeah.
For
So if someone wanted to, formulate a multivitamin and ask for some outrageous amount of. Iron.
Yeah.
Iron is a good example. You can have severe issues if you take too much iron, especially over the course of time as it builds up and things. Yeah, we would definitely flag it and explain to them why they should not put this much iron in a product and steer them away from that.
Gotcha.
Something like a B vitamin, though, except niacin. We would not typically worry about that. I mean, you see those super dosed all the time for various reasons, but they're water soluble. There's no issue there. So,
yeah.
I have enough general knowledge in most ingredients that could be an issue to try to steer someone away from doing something like that.
Yeah, so Dan's the expert in the formulas. You're kind of you are the packaging expert. I mean, a lot of people look to you.
This is true.
No, they do. I mean, I mean that with all sincerity. Everyone that sees any packaging you do says that's top level stuff. So we have customers that call and ask us about formulas and stuff. A lot of times they'll call and ask about branding and supplement facts and different things like that. I mean, when you're thinking about putting a brand on the shelf and you're thinking about doing the artwork and how that's going to be seen by the customer and what's going to make it pop on the shelf, walk us through that process in your mind and what you go through to kind of really get packaging to stand out for somebody.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the biggest pet peeve I have right now when it comes to packaging is that you look at a bottle, you don't even know what it is, right? There's some crazy colors on it. There's some crazy name for it. But what is it? Is it a protein? Is it a BCAA? Is it a pre-workout? You don't have a clue sometimes.
Ox?
It's
Ox pre-workout?
We have that product called Ox, and I was just like...
no longer. No longer called
I don't
Ox.
know what this is if it's on the shelf, right? But the reality is that I think in today's market, if you're not really upfront on the package, within the first 3 seconds that the person knows exactly what it is, exactly what it's going to do for you, people aren't going to buy it, right? Whether it's being sold on social media, whether it's on a retail shelf, whatever. I mean, me personally, I think I go into this weird space in my mind where I'm looking at a black silhouette of a bottle, and I'm just trying to pretend like I'm Iron Man, and I'm talking to Vision, and I'm just swiping things left and right, figuring out what it is that I want to put on the package. Finally, you can kind of do that in Photoshop a little bit. But once it all starts coming,
this not to interrupt. This is the in the lab mindset.
This
right?
is the in the lab, hashtag in the lab. Yes. Circa 2005 when that first started. Yeah, sorry. Dr. Dre thought he started that. That was not the case. I was the first one to use this on social media when Facebook first came out. That's right, Mark. When Facebook first came out.
So a perfect example would be when you came here to SDC Nutrition, and we have our manufacturing business, and you said, "Hey, what does SDC stand for?" Which was a corporate umbrella company 11 years ago when we founded. It didn't really mean anything because we were running the About Time brand initially as the main business. And you said, "Well, what do we do here?" And I said, "Well, we make supplements." And you said, "That's what we're doing. We make supplements." And you kind of started changing the whole branding on the company.
I instantly went to GoDaddy.
Instantly told people what we did.
Yeah, I went to GoDaddy.com. I'm like, is WeMakeSupplements.com available? It was. I'm like, all right, this is perfect. This is our new slogan. I was like, let's trademark this right away. We're going to start a podcast in a year with this name.
So why do you think when something is so obvious that brand owners or company owners don't even see something that's so obvious? Like, we make supplements, like that's what we do. Why would we not tell people that in our name or branding?
I think brand owners are so caught up on trying to create some notoriety with what they do. They forget that consumers are confused sometimes with what's going on. I remember when we first started Shreds, all the different products had different names, right? So there's Shreds for the fat burner. Diesel was our test booster. I don't know if you remember that, Dan.
Oh, yeah.
It took 9 months to get my product, but you got it to me. Vitamin Z was our multi, right? But at the end of the day, we ended up switching the whole brand name to Shreds, right? And then we just started naming the product Burner, Test, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, the consumer has to know what they're getting.
Yeah.
Right? And just people
Makes perfect sense.
People are trying to get that notoriety, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
That was in an oblong bottle. That's why it took 9 months for the record.
Hey,
Figure out how to run
Dan
those.
bought the machine, or the part of the machine, and figured out how to do square bottles. It was innovative for its time.
It was.
Especially in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That machine is now here at SDC.
Yeah, we can run oblong bottles here.
Yeah, look at
we
that.
prefer not to. If Bernie's listening, our production manager, we don't want to do those bottles, but
oh man. Well, we are hitting our limit for today. Do you guys have any final words?
No, I think this was good. It was good for people to get to meet Dan and kind of see, a little bit of the process as far as quoting and the ingredients and how we kind of come up with that process and who's behind that process here. And and then obviously a lot of good insight on the branding and packaging and telling customers, what do you do? We Make Supplements podcast.
Just try to pull open that curtain a little bit, right, so people understand. Well, Dan, thanks for being part of the podcast today.
yeah.
Everyone, will see you guys next week.
All right, thanks.